Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 16. Wow, 2017. It is now 4:30 in the afternoon. Before we begin our council meeting, I would like to ask if you're able to please rise, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And now if I could have a roll call, please.
Brad Hint.
Here.
Randy Funker.
Here.
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Zach Sawyer.
Here.
Greg Gills.
Here.
Thank you. And first on our agenda is public comments. At this time, are there any public comments that need to be shared? If so, come to the podium, share your name and your comments. Thank you.
My name is Daryl Mao. I live on 2000 East 6th Street, or you could refer to it as 2000 East Raceway. I've been to a couple of the councilmen. I went to one of the people on the school board. I don't get any results. I guess I'm the nigger in the bunch, or the new one on the block. So I was nominated to come here. That speed limit there is 25 miles an hour, and very few people drive 25. I've been testing it, and my neighbor's been testing it. We drive 20 miles an hour on that street. I've been passed 3 times. He's been passed twice. And I just thought, and we thought, I guess we better rephrase it, that with school starting and stuff, most school districts are either 15 miles an hour or 20. And I figured that as a school district, not really a residential area, not when you got from 23rd Street all the way to Washington Avenue, nothing but school. And I says to my neighbor, I come to a conclusion here a while back, why there is so many people, mothers and stuff, bringing their kids to school because they don't want them to walk that street. Now this afternoon, I seen another close one. I don't know if it's cross country school is starting, their kids are running on the street, which I would not recommend whatsoever. So what do we need to do there?
Okay, I can visit with Lyle and...
I visit with Lyle once.
Yep. I know we've had...
And I respect the police. I really do in this town. But there was a comment made at one of these meetings where isn't it nice to go to bed at night and feel the comfort of your police department? I go to bed at night and pray nobody's going to come through my house.
Sure.
We had it a few years ago where Tom Worley's mailbox. Now, you can't tell me that that guy was driving 25 and you're not going to convince me that he fell asleep. And where would that guy end up if he wanted to hit Tom Worley's mailbox? In his house. So I would please, if you would consider slowing that street down or enforcing it.
I think maybe more presence.
Well, I see police. I'm not saying the police don't drive by.
Oh, sure.
But they're at the wrong time, at the wrong place. They need to park someplace where they're not seen. And I see, I'm not picking on the police department here, but I go through that Sheldon paper. I see a lot of arrests. I see a lot of tickets. But what a coincidence, it's never Sheldon people. If there's 3 in there per week, I'd be stretching it. I don't know if they're scared to step on people's toes in here, but my feeling is if they got it coming, or if I got it coming, I got it coming. And I guess that's all I need to say.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in and sharing that concern. I do appreciate that, Daryl. Thank you. And I will visit with Lyle and I'll get back with you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments? Thank you. So moving on then to our consent agenda. Under the consideration of mayor's appointments to the Airport Commission, that would be Jet Corber. With that said, any questions, comments regarding the items under the consent agenda? If not, then do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Last request for comments. May I have a roll call, please?
Funker.
Aye.
Gills.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Thank you. And going into new business, at this time we'll now consider the second reading of the ordinance to amend section 2.1 and then 118 of the Sheldon, Iowa zoning ordinance. If you approve the second reading, it then goes to the third. Or if you so choose, you can make a motion to approve by waiving the second and going straight to the, waiving the third and approving it today on the second. However, I don't see anything wrong with going through 3 readings. Questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion to approve the second reading and move to a third?
So move.
Support.
Thank you. Since there is no feedback, I will take a roll call, please.
Gales.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Funkert.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Thank you. And then we have our second reading also of the ordinance to rezone the Prairie Trail Edition. Again, if you approve this second reading, it will go to the third reading. Any questions regarding the second reading on the rezoning of the Prairie Trail Edition?
Make the motion to approve the second reading. Support.
Thank you. No comments? Roll call, please.
Funkert.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Gales.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 5 in our agenda, there's 2 parts regarding the airport snow removal equipment. The first is to consider approval of grant agreement with the FAA. And that agreement is the Federal Aviation Administration for and on behalf of the United States hereby offers and agrees to pay 90% of the allowable cost incurred accomplishing the project as the United States share of the project. Anything further we need to elaborate? If not, they're willing to pay 90% of the snow removal equipment at the airport.
There was one question I had. Item 20,
Okay.
on page 4, they have a ban on texting while driving clause written into this. Do we intend to, how do we intend to implement that or enforce it?
Well, it's just one of the boilerplate items that they have on these
I
contracts.
mean, what does this have to do with a snowplow other than maybe texting while you're pushing snow? But
I would think who's ever pushing snow out there on that airstrip is not going to be texting.
I would
because
think so
those
too,
lights
but
are very
it's in
expensive.
there. It just
It's a
seems kind of
sensitive
crazy
area.
that it was in there.
Maybe they do that
I'm
just to
guessing
cover
it's a
themselves.
requirement for the grant application.
So,
It's one of those
as long
things.
as we're aware of it.
Yep,
Nobody said it made sense.
That's the government.
yep. It's the government, yeah. We'll be sure.
I make the motion to approve the agreement.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Thank you. Any comments? Any further comments? Okay, do I have may I have a roll call, please?
Hamel.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Funkert.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Gales.
Aye.
Thank you. And then to consider the approval of the contract with Fox International. We have gone over this before. It is in the amount of $318,871. 10% of that would be our commitment, 90% is through the FAA. Any questions regarding the contract with Fox International?
I'll make the motion to approve the contract.
Support.
Thank you. If there's no discussion, a roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Gales.
Aye.
Funkert.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 6 on the agenda, review and approval for submission for a RISE grant application for the Crossroads Industrial Park Extension. Sean has shared with us that this is through the DOT to hopefully receive 50% of those costs.
Correct.
And we will know by November, and it needs council approval for submission. Anything further?
Nope, that covers it.
All right.
Make the motion.
Support.
Thank you. Any questions? Just see Randy, so I want to make sure I don't do a roll call before I jump into it. Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Funkert.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Gales.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. And then number 7 on our agenda is the consideration of approval by resolution accepting all infrastructure and uses dedicated to the public in Prairie Trail Edition. My understanding is this is for the replatting purpose that we have to have this resolution?
It's an additional step that I've added to the platting process, especially when we have a third party that's doing the plat, such as SCDC. They have dedicated certain easements,
Okay.
and this way the city is formally accepting them, so there wouldn't be a question in the future as to whether the city has actually done what it needs to do to take advantage of those easements.
Okay, thank you, Micah. All right, with that said then, any further explanation? If not, do we have a motion to approve by resolution?
So move.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Gills.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Funkert.
Aye.
And then number 8 on our agenda is the consideration of the sewer rate study. Today we're going to have Matt come up, and we all have a copy provided to us. Matt's going to go through that. Keep in mind today we're just going to go over the study. No action is going to be taken yet. We'll bring that back at our next council meeting, September 6th. So, Matt, if you would do the honors of taking us through this booklet.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me come today. I'll present our process in developing the rate study, I guess. At any time, if you have questions, please feel free to interrupt, and I'll be happy to answer questions. So, the sewer rate study, I guess, was commissioned as a result of some big capital improvements that you're doing at your treatment facility. Really, that was what began that process, and we completed basically a review of your revenue requirements that included your O&M expenses, an evaluation of depreciation and capital outlays, and your debt service requirements and your bond payment requirements for that new facility. And basically performed a cost of service study, which is kind of an industry standard practice. There's standard methods that we follow in order to do that. The highlights of that process are to define what the revenue requirements are, go through an evaluation of your customer classes that are part of your utility, determine the percentage that they participate in, the flows and the strengths of the wastewater, allocate the costs of the utility to those different functions, whether that's a flow requirement, whether that's a wastewater strength component, or whether that's a component of just a customer cost. So we allocate across those different categories, and we come up with a cost to serve a certain user group, whether that's residential, commercial, or industrial. And then we go through a rate design process to recover those costs from those customer groups. That's the cost of service analysis in a nutshell. I guess some highlights of our study. You have those 3 customer categories. You have residential and commercial. Those 2 customer categories are charged a fixed charge, and then there's a unit charge that's based on the per 1,000 gallons of usage, and then you have an industrial user category that is also has a monthly minimum charge. Then there's a volume charge, and then there's a strength charge. So your large industrial customers may have different wastewater strengths, and you would charge differently based on what those wastewater strength components are. So right now, your 2016 revenues were about $780,000. The budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year is going to be $925,000 of revenue, and we're going to escalate that up as part of the project and to maintain the different constraints on your financing and to pay for your new wastewater treatment facility. And in 2021, 2022, that's going to be about $1.7 million worth of revenue. So we have to start where we're at today, which is about $900,000 in annual revenues, and escalate that up to about $1.7 million of revenue. We've recommended kind of a stepped rate increase process to get us there. And I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I do want to answer your questions. So.
part of this study is, and rate structure is incorporating capital projects into the current rates rather than bonding for lift station repairs and so forth, correct?
That's right. You historically have done a big station improvement every other year, and that's kind of what your capital improvements plan had included in it, was kind of some general expenses every year, about $50,000 per year worth of emergency repairs, infiltration and inflow, I&I repair that happened every year. And then every other year, you did kind of a major station, lift station repair or upgrade as part of that. Historically, you may have gone to bond specifically for those projects when those represented, a third of your annual revenues. As part of your financing for this project, you have to generate enough revenue for what they call a debt service coverage ratio, that you need to generate that money in excess of what your debt payments are, but you can spend that money on improvements. So through this rate study process, basically, we're going to start generating the revenue in order to meet your bonding covenants, but you can use that money to make capital improvements, if that makes sense.
I know that Orange City is undergoing a wastewater treatment facility improvement project currently. In terms of other communities that you work with, I mean, that's probably our closest one in terms of size and similarities. The increases we're looking at, is that kind of average par for the course, or where do we sit there in terms of other communities like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As you know, this is all being promulgated by some new discharge limits, and there were several communities that were all hit by this. Orange City being one of them, Sioux Center, Esterville. There's a handful of communities in northwest Iowa that are all struggling with the same thing. I think the rate increases that you're seeing are very consistent. You happen to be one of the early ones. You're one of the initial communities that are adopting rates to be able to cover this. And so I think it's too early to tell for many of the other communities what that's really going to be. But I think Orange City is in the same ballpark, and I think Sioux Center is going to be in the same ballpark, maybe a little more. So
Sure.
that's pretty consistent.
I think, we may have questions that are going to come up as we review this, and we're going to bring it back to our next council meeting in September 6th. So any questions that we have now, I welcome them to be posed to Matt. Otherwise, I encourage council to set up a time to meet with Sean and possibly Matt as well, if you need to go over this further and any questions that arise, etc. So it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of considerations and scenarios to visit as well. So don't feel like if you didn't get your questions asked today, we still have time to read through this, and then we'll bring it back to our next council meeting. So is there anything to my left, council, any questions that might have come up? Or to my right that need to be asked now? If not, I'll invite you to set those times with Sean. Pete, go ahead.
In this study, are we leaving intact most of the in-place structure and just taking that and plugging in what we think we need to pay for the project? Okay, so there really weren't any changes to structure as far so that would be up to us.
Like the rate structure, as far as there being a residential customer class and a commercial customer class and an industrial customer
Cost
class.
offsets that we might use, or any other cost offsets that we might use. We still have the ability to do that, I assume. This is just a study. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, defining the the cost to serve those customers. Yep. So if there's other components of your rate that you want to develop, or other avenues for financing, then
Okay,
yep, that can
thank
be
you.
considered.
Wonderful. Okay, any questions to my right? Greg? Okay, Brad? Anything now? Randy? Pete?
I'll have to look through it and read it.
Right, okay. Thanks for bringing this today, Matt. And then again, I plan to set up a time too, and we welcome you to come in with us, or Sean can get with you and get any questions that might have arose to you. But we'll schedule that time together so we can bring this back and then make our decisions on how we're going to go with financing at our next council meeting. So,
Right.
thank you very much
Yes, thank
for
you.
being here. Thank you. So just keep that in mind. September 6th, we will have this back on our agenda as far as the financing structure part of it. Great. Next on our agenda and last is comments. Are there any comments? No, Kurt, did you sit up, or did we sit up at the same time? Okay. Todd, anything?
Just one. You may have noticed we did start our asphalt overlay work yesterday.
Nice.
We got some of the patching done in between rain showers. We were hoping to start on East 9th today, but that obviously didn't happen with the rain, but that's okay. We'll take the rain.
Great. You bet.
Hopefully we'll be back at it tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anything, Lana?
Actually, you know what, Mayor?
Oh, sure. Your time's
We're
up.
not meeting again. Just wanted to point out this Labor Day weekend,
Yes.
Celebration Day. So we have our scheduled events on our website, sheldoniowa.com. We got a whole brochure there. So otherwise, if anybody in the has any questions, just to contact the office and get the scheduled event. So there
That's
you go.
hard to
There's
believe
comment.
that we will not be meeting again until after Labor Day. Wow.
Yep.
Thank you, Kurt. Anything, Council? Council? Sean, I see you have some notes, so go for it.
Yes, the goal-setting date that we had originally planned for November 21st,
With Jeff Schott, right?
correct,
Okay.
is now changed to December 13th.
Okay.
And I will provide timeframes as we get a little bit closer to that. And then I also want to invite council to the ribbon cutting for Crossroads Pavilion. That is scheduled for Friday, September 8th between 9:30 and 10:30, with the ribbon cutting occurring right at 10 a.m. So you are all invited to that.
Thank you. It's almost here. And then I have just a couple of comments. Shop with a Cop, I've heard nothing but wonderful compliments on that, Lyle. So kudos to you and all those families. Very appreciative people have shared that. So I thank you for all the efforts that you put into that in your
It was
department.
about 55 families, right?
I think so, yeah.
55 kids.
55?
Yes, I believe it was 55.
It's
And
amazing.
I should have brought that up in comments.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, you just finished Monday night, was it?
yeah, it wouldn't be possible without the generosity of a lot of people.
Sure.
You know, we received checks anywhere from $20 to $1,500.
That's nice.
So, yeah, a lot of kids going back to school with a nice
So-
little boost.
I saw some kids today in their new clothes, and they're very excited. They were so excited to be able to do that with you. So thank you. That's a great thing that happens in our community. And then I was going to point out Labor Day as well. Thank you, Kurt. And I was also going to bring up school starts next Wednesday and remind people to slow down. And thanks to Daryl coming in and sharing that with us. Just, I'm sure you guys will get that in the media for us, but a stop sign means stop. And a speed limit means that's the limit. So we just encourage everybody. Next week is going to be chaotic with school returning. So just slow down, especially students, and watch for those kids on mopeds. There, Lord help us. So anything, I have lots of comments on that, but we'll keep it to myself. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Hens.
Aye.
Deals.
Aye.
Spunker.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.